happened to be a manger. Now we romanticize that word manger to look like, you know, the settings that we have in our minds as we picture the thing in our minds, but it's actually either a cave or it's where the animals slept. You know, if I had a great visitor come and visit me one day, I would not just open up my garage for them. Have you ever had visitors come to your house, an important person who dropped by, and you said, all right, come and stay in my garage? You know, you wouldn't want to say that, right? If this was the person you recognized to be an important person, you'd open up your home to them. And not just their living room, your sala. You'd give them your best room. Your best room. You know, you'd vacate your master's bedroom and say, take my room. Take my bed. Here, have the best place in my life. You know what? That's the sad part. Because this innkeeper could have honored Christ himself on that first day. But instead of doing it that way, he missed out on celebrating Christ and his arrival. Well, the second person that missed out on Christmas, aside from the innkeeper himself, was King Herod. Let me turn you to Matthew chapter 2, verse 3. And in this text it says, when King Herod heard that this was to happen, let me go back in verse 1 up to verse 3. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him. Verse 3 says, and when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. And look at that. King Herod heard the arrival of the king. And instead of welcoming him, you read from the later text that he says that he tried everything within his power to destroy this king. Well, visibly, he was troubled. It says there, right there in that word, disturbed and troubled. I looked up that word in the original text. It says that he was not just disturbed physically, he was disturbed inwardly. He was perplexed. He was troubled in the sense that he said, who is this that they announced to be the King of the Jews? Hold on, I am the King of the Jews. This wasn't something that you would tell King Herod, because King Herod was a vicious man. He was a man that was truly a man that did not respect life. History would say that he destroyed lives. And so when he heard this news, that this king would arrive, instead of welcoming him with open arms, he saw him as a threat. You see, Herod was more concerned about his position and power than the Messiah coming to this place. And I dare to reflect a little bit on this. That this is the problem with many people today. That we would not receive Christ for who he is simply because we're more concerned about our position in life and the power that we wield. You know, there is only one way that we can truly receive Christ in our lives. And that is when we say to ourselves, no more to me and yes to him. The moment that we have learned to take off ourselves and wear Christ in our lives, that is the beginning of our walk and journey with him. King Herod wasn't ready for that. His position was more important. His power more imminent than receiving the one who is the most powerful in our lives. Friends, I want to just ask you to reflect a little bit on that. Knowing that while we point a finger at King Herod, maybe we ourselves sometimes do not have the ability to shed our own responsibilities and say to ourselves, no to me, yes to the Christ. He missed out on that. He missed out on worshiping Christ himself. Why? Because he was thinking more of himself. Just like the innkeeper was more concerned about being busy with life. He was more concerned about, the bottom line of his business. And sometimes that's what we are. That we do not receive Christ in our hearts because we're more busy occupying ourselves with the things that concerns us in life. That was Herod. He missed it. He missed Christmas. The innkeeper, Herod himself missed it. And look at this. the religious leaders of that time also missed Jesus Christ. Turn your Bibles to Matthew 2 verse 4, and where it says, when he had called, this is King Herod, when he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. And they said, in Bethlehem in Judea, for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people, Israel. And when you look at that, you ask yourself, well, they're the religious leaders of that time. They must have known that he was to arrive, right? Well, they missed it completely. The religious leaders, the ones that were tasked to learn and study and receive what has to be planned, they missed it completely. And it says there that they were the council, they were the chief priests and the scribes. The scribes were the ones who recorded the history of the people.